On this episode of the Denver Bronco Roundup podcast, the main part of free agency is pretty much winding down, and the NFL draft is right around the corner. We're going to talk about those players on the roster right now under the most pressure in 2026. We're going to get to all of that and more starting right about now. Well, welcoming everybody to the Denver Bronco Roundup podcast. My name is Keith Brugman. Got my good friend over here, Trevor Salzman. We're raring to go, man. I think like a lot of Broncos fans, raring to go as well. It's been an off season that's been one to talk about. I'll give you that much. And now it's starting to wind down a little bit. Starting to think about those players on the roster. Again, my name is Keith Brugman. Can't wait to get started this evening with all of you. Can't wait to get started with my good friend over here, Trevor Salzman. Welcome in, Trevor. How you doing, my friend? It's a fantastic Saturday evening.
Yeah, absolutely, Keith. It's fantastic Saturday evening, and talk about wild off-season so far. This dang weather in Colorado has been insane. I mean, one day it's about 30 degrees and blizzarding, and the next day it's about 90 degrees. I mean, it's insane. I mean, talk about an off-season of weather. It's been up and down, a lot. So, but no, doing well, Keith. Excited to be here and talk more Bronco football. Of course, after we're almost a week here, Tuesday, I think, since the Jalen Waddle trade. So still trying to digest that a little bit. It's insane. Broncos got get their first, big splash of the offseason, probably their biggest splash of the offseason. But, interesting to see what the aftermaths of a kind of deal like that.
Yeah. I think, like we all hope, we want to see transformation a little bit. We want to see upgrades. We want to see progression from one year to the next. For the Denver Broncos, that was fairly limited this offseason in what we were able to add to this roster. A lot of run it back talk around Broncos country and Colorado in general, and even the NFL landscape when it comes to the Denver Broncos, man. So it's going to be interesting. Like I said in our intro, now we start to see, the free agency kind of wind down a little bit. You'll see some potential, like, A.J. Brown post-June first cut is probably going to be his most likely scenario. So you'll see those late season, additions to rosters potentially. But for the most part, money's running low. Free agents are running low. And a lot of people are looking towards the draft. A draft for us that now doesn't include a first-round draft pick, Trevor. So it really is going to put stress on the picks that we do have. But it's also going to put a lot of stress on these players to progress, even though we're kind of running it back. And so we're going to be talking a lot about what players are underneath the most pressure. Under no pressure is any of our posse members to come in here and comment, but we love it when you do. Like Graham coming in here early on YouTube saying, hey guys, gotta go with JFM's replacement as someone who is under pressure. I was thinking about this, Trevor, right before we went live, and I know that we had just a small conversation. If we have anybody that we've picked that the posse brings up, that's going to be our player, and we'll try to keep track, and we'll try to go back for the ones that we don't have. Who do you think is going to be that guy that's going to be the replacement for JFM? If you had to say a replacement for JFM, And how much pressure is that player going to be under in your mind?
Well, I think Savion Jones is one of the guys on the roster that will be in play to take over that JFM role. I will say I don't think the Broncos are also done in free agency. I think that they're going to still add another piece or two. I know they just signed a safety the other day, mainly a special teamer. I mean, then that was a low cost signing for them, so that doesn't do much for their salary cap space much at all. I think they still have like around $20 million in cap space, and honestly, after this Jalen Waddle trade, it kind of helps your situation with paying your draft picks because you're having to pay your total draft class around $34 million total, and so you just think you do the math. I mean, how much money you still have left to still make still a decent sized move, and so I'm one that's been advocating Graham and Posse members, Bronco fans. This team needs to do something on the defensive line in case Savion Jones doesn't pan out. You need to have a veteran in there. I've said Calais Campbell and I've said Cam Jordan multiple times. I think everybody has at this point, but they've got to be able to address that defensive line, and I think they'll address it somehow, some way, at some point in time this offseason. There's still a little bit of money left over, but right now, the guy that's in line to do that on this roster currently, it's Savion Jones.
Yeah, and I think Savion Jones could feel that pressure. We don't have a whole lot of draft picks. It'll be interesting to see how they utilize what they do have. And again, once you get past that second round pick and you start diving into third and fourth round picks, you're missing. I mean, I'm sorry, from second to fourth, because we don't have that third round pick. Now you're having pretty high expectations for a player to come in from college to a roster that we already think are Super Bowl contenders and be a big piece of that. That's a pretty big calling for a fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh round pick to come in and do that. So I think it will end up being up to a lot of the guys on this roster, i.e. Savion Jones. Big E Bronco says, I hope everyone's having a good night on this Saturday night. Fantastic. Now that we have you, Big E, good to see you, my friend, coming in on YouTube, as well as Pearl saying hello. Who else we got? Love the moves that Denver made. Waddle was a steal. Well, I don't know if that's the first pressure guy, so I'm going to leave that out there. But yeah, this is the one thing that I will say, and this was brought up. I don't know if anybody else heard this. I can't even remember where I heard it. If not, I try to quote it or give some type of recognition here. The thing that you really got to remember is that when you look at the average contract of a wide receiver right now, 14, 15, maybe $17 million a year. I mean, the elite ones are getting paid. Don't get me wrong. Alex Pierce, right, what's his contract per year, Trevor?
It wasn't 20 plus million a year.
20 plus.
Yeah.
Do we know what we're playing Jalen Waddle over the next 2 years if we keep him on the roster? About $30 million a year. We also gave up draft picks in order to pay a guy over the next couple of years like $50 million plus. It's a big chunk. I don't know if it's a steal, but I like the move. Ernie Mays, always a good friend, over on Facebook, saying, go Broncos country only. Hello, Keith and Trevor. Pearl, by the way, if you're in here, love to know if you have any shows that are coming around the corner. We're going to talk about the amazing prices you have on silver as well. But just wanted to get that out there. Our good friend, Mr. Phil McLaughlin, coming in saying, good evening, Keith and Trevor, or Keith and Rocket Man. Who do you think will contracts between Mims, Jones, Moss, and McMillan? Who do you think will
get contracts? Like
get contracts?
Extension. You get a contract extensions.
Get contract extensions. Maybe. We'll answer it that way, man. If you had to go out and say the first guy that gets a contract extension off of that list, where would you go? Do you think they all do? I don't know if we want to go that route, but who do you think gets it first?
No, I can off these four names. I'll tell Phil what my opinion, at least up to this point. I'm going to say I think they pay Riley Moss. I think McMillan is gone. I say probably Marvin and Mims. I would say two. Moss and Mims get paid. I think Brandon Jones is out the door. I think McMillan's out the door. because I think safety is something to watch. I'll add on to that a
Yes.
little bit. I think safety is a spot to watch for the Broncos to take in this year's draft. Brandon Jones kind of didn't have as good of a year as he did last year, this past season. So I think he's expendable coming up, as after next season, I should say. So I think safety is a position this team's looking at. That's why I'm saying Brandon Jones could definitely be out the door. And then McMillan and Ross, you're not paying both. So I actually think they drafted Jahade Barron to play the nickel, and that was their plan all along. I think they ended up keeping actually Riley Moss.
Yeah, and that's the big question here. Jones is the one that I think is the least likely to get a contract, but I agree with you there. Between Moss and McMillan, because I agree, you can't be paying PS2 and Moss and Jaquan McMillan. It's just you're going to be too top heavy, right? One of those guys will have to go. Um, I would like to say McMillan, but I could also see it being Moss. But for the sake of conversation, is McMillan. The one that really gets me, and we had a conversation about this before, is Mims. Mims, I think at some point might be better as a tradable asset on this roster when you start looking at the pieces that you have put together already than he is to keep him long term and try to keep a Cortland Sutton and a Troy Franklin and a Jalen Waddle and hopefully a tight end that you know what I mean? There's lots of pieces and parts to be paid there, and I think Marvin Mims might be one of those ones. So I'll say Marvin Mims doesn't. I'll just to switch it up a little bit here. Let's see. Good evening, gents. Just about to do my second workout of the day. Any update news for the Broncos? Other than I think the biggest thing I saw was Sean Payton talking to, you guessed it, Kay Adams. He's down there doing the flag football, and he was excited about the grit that Jalen Waddle brings to this team, and he reached out to he talked to Teddy Bridgewater about Jalen Waddle. Who else did he say he talked to? There was one other person that he said he talked to that I wish I could bring to my tongue at the moment. If I think about it, I will. But reached out and just talked about his work ethic and what he brought and how competitive the guy was. And that really helped solidify, I guess, in Sean Payton's mind. So I can't, again, if I think about it, I will. Again, thinking about players that are under pressure. By the way, we have Kenny coming in and says, "Good evening, my fellow horsemen. Regards, legends in my book, friends and posse. Happy start to the weekend." Yeah. Awazarike, a lot of people are thinking Awazarike could take over. Roach could take over for JFM. We were talking about Savion Jones maybe being that guy. Ernie Mays wants to pay everybody. If everyone's willing to take a bail pay cut, we can always run it back. And then I'm seeing Pearl coming in with some information on the next show she'll be doing. Trevor, I thought I heard you for a second.
Yeah. So I do have one question, because this has been me and you haven't been on a show since the Waddle trade happened.
Wow.
So I will say, since this trade happened, one thing that concerns me is I do think the Broncos gave up a little more than what I would have wanted. I had heard Miami wanted a first round pick for Waddle for a long time. I expected that to happen. Mm-hmm. But with this team, you giving up your first and third round pick, are you concerned with the lack of top 100 picks that the Broncos have? They have one currently, and that's 62. After that, their 2 fourth round picks are 108 and 111, and then obviously on down. But are you concerned with, and this is, and Posse members can answer this too, are you concerned with this team's lack thereof top 100 picks in this year's draft?
No, and I'll tell you why. You're obviously in a run it back mentality. You didn't leave a whole lot of holes on this roster throughout all of free agency. And two, I think, like a lot of teams have been doing as of lately, Miami was really pushing for a 2027 pick. And I think 2027 is the draft you want to have the capital in. We all know this is probably not going to be known as the most talented draft class ever to emerge out of 2026. I don't think that's what we're looking at. I think, especially when it comes to the depth. I mean, maybe, yeah, top 10, there's always that ability to have amazing players, but that's the top 10. I'm talking when we're 20 on down, going into the second and third round. I don't think we have a super, super deep draft class. I think next year is what they were trying to preserve. I heard that this trade was in the works for the last few weeks now, that everything's come to fruition. So the back and forth, I think the back and forth was about next year. You got to give up. If you're going to go out and get that guy, you got to give something up. I'm not upset about it. I don't think it was the best value ever, but I think you are getting the right player on your roster too.
Mm-hmm. And I think Jalen Waddle fits what the Broncos have been wanting inside their locker room. I think this whole A.J. Brown talk, which again, Denver was never in on Brown. They could have talked to the Eagles about him. That's one thing to check in. They check on everybody, but I don't ever think they were for a second were ever in on A.J. Brown. So I'm glad that they didn't go the A.J. Brown route at all. And this Waddle trade makes a lot more sense. That's what I'm glad about, because I think he fits this locker room to a T. He's unselfish. He's not a diva, wide receiver. And I just think him and Cortland Sutton can be that 1A, 1B. And it's not going to be like, oh, I can already get kind of tired of hearing this already. Jalen Waddle, number one wide receiver for the Broncos. No, I don't think it's got to be that. And I don't think it's going to be that, because I think him and Sutton can play off each other. And I think it's going to be like that from game to game. You're never going to know which wide receiver is going to be the number one wide receiver for the day, who's going to put up the most yards, who's going to get open the most, who's going to get the ball most. You don't know. And I think that's what's really nice about this is teams are going to have to match up against that. Jalen Waddle, he takes a ton of pressure off of Cortland Sutton with what he's been able to draw from a defensive standpoint. And that's big with Sutton and Waddle. They can be a really nice 1-2 combination from Bo Nix. And that's what I see. I don't see Waddle being the clear number one. I don't see Sutton be the clear number one. They both can feed off each other from game to game.
Peter Johnson coming in on YouTube says, I'm not concerned because our depth in some positions is better than the top 100 players in this draft anyway. And there's something to be said about that when you have NFL experienced players versus the dice roll that you're putting in the draft. You need to continue to be able to build that way. Not going to be the year that we're building, I think, as much as we'll be building in the future, like in 2027. I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to break right into our under pressure players. And I'm going to go into my first one because I think we've been talking about him enough. And it is Jalen Waddle. I just don't think that, in my opinion, you can be basically the only free agent that comes into Denver. I mean, I know that we got a safety that's going to be playing special teams, but is there any other player that could be under more pressure than Jalen Waddle? He's the unknown. He's the guy that we all want to see be that difference maker in this offense and make this team even more special than what we've already seen, because he's our one prized possession. Jalen Waddle, by a lot of accounts, has been held down in Miami because of the quarterback play. And now you have a quarterback that can whip it around the field with some of the best of them. Jalen Waddle, in I think Broncos country's eyes, is kind of a savior or that cherry on the top type of feeling, for this Denver Broncos offense. I think there's a lot of pressure for Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, I agree with you, Keith. And actually, before we even put this list together, that was one name I was going to throw out there. One of the first names I was going to throw out there. So that's a great call by you by putting Jalen Waddle out there as one of those players under the most pressure. Yeah, anytime you go to a new team and you're that team that you end up going to ends up spending premium draft capital to get you, there's going to be pressure on you. And so, yeah, I agree 100%. I think Jalen Waddle, again, I think what's nice about Waddle is he's a team first guy. Though, like, he's not going to be out there calling out for the ball all the time. Like, yeah, he wants the ball. Of course, every player wants to put up stats and stuff like that. But it really seems like this is a player that is going to be able to buy into the system, buy into the locker room, and just really, take his when he gets his own, but really just about the team. And will be able to do what he's being asked to do. So I agree with you, though. He's definitely under pressure, just with everything that transpired with the trade. And Broncos having to give up picks because up to this point, Keith, let's be honest, this is a Broncos team that's been hesitant to give up those picks lately. I mean, that's a team that's been talked about drafting and developing multiple times. And so the fact that they made this trade tells you the player that they believe in and tells you the person they believe in as well. So, definitely pressure on Jalen Waddle for sure. I agree.
All right, man. I'm glad we're in agreement at least on that one. And by the way, Pearl said she agrees with me as well. And lastly, I'm playing bad host tonight, by the way, man. I'm playing really bad host because when Phil McLaughlin came in and he was asking about contracts and who gets them, he dropped 100 stars, and I didn't even give any recognition to that, man. Phil, thank you so much, man. Off season, helping us out, dropping 100 stars. I promise, next time I'm on here, I'm going to have the sound horn. You know what I mean? That's every time somebody drops stars or helps us out this way. We appreciate it very much, and helps the world go round on our end. On our end. So, Trevor, I'll let you start talking about a guy that maybe you want to talk about. I'll make sure that I get the right graphic up on the screen as you start yabbering away. Just kidding. Go ahead.
Yeah. So are we going 1 to 3? We're going 3 to 1.
I didn't have mine ordered in any particular way, man, my friend. So if you have an order, I can do it in any order you want.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Jaquan McMillan. I'll start from 3 and go up to 1. I'll keep the suspense going for everybody out there. But I'll go Jaquan McMillan. And the reason I say this, and you could say Riley Moss too, possibly, depending on who you think has got the most pressure. But I say Jaquan McMillan because him and Jahadae Barron for me are similar size, and that's why I'm like, I think Denver really brought in Jahadae Barron to replace Jaquan McMillan. I think that timetable kind of flipped when Jaquan McMillan went out, and let's be honest, he balled this last season. I mean, he really did. He had, in my opinion, his best season in Denver. 60% completion percentage, when targeted, passer rating of 74, 56 tackles and 5 missed tackles. Jaquan McMillan, I mean, he was just all over the field and was very good in the nickel. But I do think Denver spending a first-round pick and this team getting more expensive. I mean, you just acquired Jalen Waddle. We talked about his future contract, what that may look like for Denver. There's going to be repercussions of this, and so players that are going to make big money or are making big money, they're going to be out the door likely down the road. I mean, that's just what you acquiring a Jalen Waddle contract like that, how it's structured, everything. I know you can move money around, I get that, but you're probably going to be asked to move off some players or going to be forced to move off players, and I think it's going to be either one of Jaquan McMillan or Riley Moss. I think it's Jaquan McMillan, but the reason wwhy Jaquan McMillan's on this list, not necessarily what he did last season, but it's what he's going to be doing or going to be asked to do this past season. Remember, he signed a 1-year, $5.8 million second-round restricted free agent tender to come back to Denver, meaning he wasn't really going to go anywhere. Teams would have to give up a second-round pick plus pay Jaquan McMillan big money to take him away from Denver. So, but Jaquan McMillan, there's pressure on him to perform again, I think, this season. And it's to earn himself a big contract. I think that he's got to live up to what he did this past season. If he does that, I mean, who knows? I mean, he's definitely going to get paid. Will he get paid here in Denver, or elsewhere? I think time will tell. But Jaquan McMillan's under pressure for his own due being, so he can make himself big money and live up to what he did this past season.
I think I agree with what you're saying. I 100% would agree with what you're saying. He elevated himself so much last year in what he was able to do, what he put on the field. Signs that 1-year deal, kind of gambles on yourself a little bit in that regard, in order to come back to Denver. Obviously they tendered him, so somebody would have to take him away. But this is kind of a gamble on him. He's really got to show out. I want to kind of take Rodney's comment and kind of wrap it into here, because we do have the year, right? Come the end of the year, if we're looking at maybe trading one of these players, Rodney's saying, I'd like to trade Barron, honestly, and he still has good value. Do you see a scenario that maybe Jahadae Barron could play like Jaquan McMillan did last year, and now you have that quagmire of who you letting go and who you keeping on the team, down to Jahadae Barron and McMillan as well? Do you think that's a possibility?
I mean, I don't see them trading Jahdae Barron. I think that this is an organization that knows who they take and when they take, and they can get behind the pick, even if the player they take takes a little bit of time. It's difficult for some fans because some fans expect immediate production from these guys. And Jahdae Barron came in. Let's remember, let's kind of wind back to last offseason in the draft when they took him. You already had a full cornerback room. Let's not also, we haven't not brought up Chris Abrams-Drain. It's also in this cornerback room. So, and involved in the secondary. So, Jahdae Barron, it was going to be tough for him to really make a huge impact year one anyway. I think this team knew that going into drafting him. And so I think this season, is a year for Jahdae Barron to make that big step up, and really the Broncos to give him an opportunity to do so. And so I don't think Jahdae Barron is going to be traded. I think that would honestly, again, talking about cost affecting moves, that's a rookie contract that is going to be very cheap for the next couple of seasons. He's got 4 more years, at least 3 more years of contractual control on his rookie contract, plus the 5th-year option since he's a first-round pick. So you really have him under control for the next 4 years if you choose him to be, or choose that to be his 4th-year, his 5th-year option. So Jahdae Barron isn't going anywhere in my opinion. He's sticking around. It's really going to come down to Jaquan McMillan and Rather Moss. And honestly, we may figure that out sooner rather than later because, like Peter Johnson has said in the comments, this is an organization that likes to pay their players early. And so don't be surprised if you see one of these guys get paid earlier than maybe you expect.
Yeah. Barron, he says, like, I'd trade Barron, honestly. I brought this back up because just what you got done saying. The one reason he is valuable, like Rodney is saying, is because you do have all those years of control, right? Mm-hmm. So if you have a packed roster and you're trying to move pieces around, that is a valuable asset at that point. If you think you can ride without him and you want to go PS2, McMillan, and Moss, and Jahdae Barron is out the door, whoever gets that contract is getting a very good contract for the next few years. I'm not saying I'm not advocating for it. I don't think that's the likelihood. Like everyone's saying, I think Barron is the player you keep. Biggie Bronco's in here. Peter Johnson's in here. They have big ones in here. Talking about his ability to play multiple positions. Actually, it's funny because Peter and Biggie Bronco are almost line for line saying the same thing about how versatile Jahdae Barron is.
Well, and you're not going to get that. Don't mean to interrupt you, Keith. I apologize for this, but I want to throw this in there. You're not going to get back the value that you ended up selecting Jahdae Barron at. Like, meaning you're not going to get a first-round pick back for Jahdae Barron anyway. So you'd be losing value with the contract, losing the contractual control that you have, that him on his rookie contract, meaning plus you'd be losing value because you're not going to get a first round pick back for him anyway. So it just doesn't make sense right now to move off of him really much at all. When you drafted this player, you have to keep him and draft and develop him. And this is an organization that I think is really behind doing so with Jahdae Barron. And that's a premium position. And so I don't think that they take Jahdae Barron if there's any question about that.
Mm-hmm. I'll get one more of mine in. I was just trying to think about which way I wanted to go here. Plus, oh, by the way, everybody, we also got a bonus one submitted by another posse member, or not a posse member, another horseman, Kenny Kirkpatrick. We'll get to that one before the end of the night as well. I'm going to go this route, man. Is there a guy that shouldn't be under more pressure? By the way, if anybody doesn't know who this is on screen, if you're watching at home, because even one of our other horsemen said, who the heck is that? It's Mr. Drew Sanders. And I think that is exactly what we're talking about here. Drew Sanders was not a throwaway pick. Drew Sanders has been given multiple opportunities on this roster. Drew Sanders, I think, is in the very last year for him to do anything to remain on this team. If he doesn't go out there and perform in 2026, I'm sorry. I don't know how you keep Drew Sanders around any longer. Just can't. Drew Sanders is under a ton of pressure. Drew Sanders was that guy that was supposed to be the linebacker next to Alex Singleton last year until he got hurt. There was a big call for this guy to be on the field and be a big part of what the Broncos wanted to do. Can he earn that back? through training camp this year. Can he go out there and compete and make himself a viable NFL player? If not for the Denver Broncos, at least for himself and another team. I think that's really the type of pressure that Drew Sanders is playing under right now, under 2026. A lot of pressure for Drew Sanders.
Yeah, and I agree with this one as well, Keith. I mean, well, he's a former third round pick in 2023, the number 67th overall pick. This was Drew Sanders in 2023, third round draft pick. That's just talked about top 100 picks.
Top of the third round.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, I mean, this has been such a disappointment. I mean, that's 3 seasons in a row. He just can't see the field. I mean, he can't stay healthy when he's on the field. They don't know how to use him as well. I see that. That's the thing. We can sit here and blame Drew Sanders for the injuries and whatnot, and like some of that's also not his fault. But like when he's been on the field, it's not really stood out obviously enough to get meaningful playing time. But here's the thing: I don't think the Broncos have done a good job of developing him either. And I will say this because there's been times and times again, 3 seasons since Drew Sanders has been with the Broncos. It's either been, oh, he's an edge rusher. Oh, he's an inside linebacker. Moving back to edge. Now he's an inside linebacker. Like, it's back and forth. It's 2 different positions. Just put him somewhere and stick him and play him. I mean, when he's healthy. I know he hasn't been healthy. I get that. And injuries happen. I understand that. And I hope he does stay healthy. This is his final season in Denver as well on his rookie contract. He's going into the 4th year of his contract. So if he don't ball out this year and he don't get meaningful playing time, I think he's out the door. He's also 25 years old, be 26 in December. So we'll see how Drew Sanders plays. But I agree with you, Keith. He's definitely on the bubble, especially with Alex Singleton and Justin Strnad. You really don't have much depth behind those guys like Lavelle Bailey you have, and you end up have Drew Sanders. What else you have? I mean, so there's not a lot of depth behind those guys. So we'll see what he does this year. Hopefully he makes the 53-man roster, Keith. But honestly, I'll be honest, I don't even know if he makes the 53-man roster at this point.
That's where Peter's at, too. Says Sanders will be cut, I think. Poor guy just can't seem to get his fitness right. It sucks because we all wanted it to work so much for Drew. 100%, man. I think we were all big Drew Sanders fan when he first came out. And the ability to be available and be out there on the field has hurt him so much that I think he could be like a cut and bring back to the practice squad type of player. I don't think he's shown enough value that you're worried that another team is just automatically going to scoop up Drew Sanders and think that he's going to be, a big component of their team right off the bat. There's a good possibility that I could see all of that happening. By the way, aloha to Mr. Patrick Wiltsey. Patrick, it's been a while since I talked to you, man. I'm just hoping that all is well with you out there in Hawaii. I know the 50th state over there is getting pounded by some rains. So hope you're well, my friend. Hope that all your family is well, friends. And please take care of Hawaii. We got to get to our amazing sponsor. Our amazing sponsor has been for a long time now, Morgan Trinkets. Morgan Trinkets is your headquarters for Southwest Jewelry, Southwest Pottery, Estate Gold at wholesale prices. They were once a nationwide company, but now they do fantastic shows in your backyard. That's northern Colorado, southern Wyoming. Like these dates that I put up on the bottom of the screen. And anybody listening, it's April 3rd through the 5th. There's a dog show in Brighton, Colorado. Morgan Trinkets is going to be there. And if that doesn't suit you, on April 11th, the Ultimate Garage Sale in Greeley, Colorado is happening. And Morgan Trinkets is going to be there. Morgan Trinkets reached out to me and said, Keith, I have silver at the most amazing prices while it lasts. I'm telling you, April 3rd through the 5th, I know it's a couple of weeks away. If there's anything it's still around, it'll be on display. And the reason I say that, you can also check out Morgan Trinkets over on Etsy by typing in Morgan Trinkets Co. or heading on over to eBay by typing in Pearl Heat. So if you want to get there early, get to all the goodies before April 3rd and 5th. Go out there and check them out on Etsy. Check them out on eBay as well. All right, man. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that I need to look at. By the way, Patrick says things are good, and I'm excited about Waddle still. Would love to see. And Joku also. Looking for additional help to this roster. Might be a good transition, but I guess I went last, so it's your turn, my friend. Like, it's number 2 for you, right?
Yeah, this is RJ Harvey. And no surprise, I think I know Keith may kick me off after saying all this, but no, I know how much of an RJ Harvey fan he was when the Broncos ended up picking him. Even before then, Keith had a great call out on RJ Harvey. But no, for me, RJ Harvey. I mean, the reason why he's on this list is he was a second round draft pick, 60th overall pick from a year ago. 146 rushing attempts, 540 rushing yards total, 3.7 yards per carry, and 481 snaps, 42% of the time he was on the field. For me, RJ Harvey, listen, I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It wasn't great last year. You have pretty much the same running back room. You're running it back. We'll see what they do in the draft. I mean, they can go several different directions. As it stands right now, this team has the same running back room that it had a year ago. George Payton has come out and said it. He thinks RJ Harvey can be a 3-down back. Okay. This is the year to see it. Second season in the league. First year, he had his ups and downs. I think that times he had shown some bright spots. Has to get better and pass pro. I think he does have the capabilities to be a 3-down back, but again, I'm not convinced that's going to happen exactly. We'll see what happens this coming up season, but there's pressure on RJ Harvey. I'm sorry. I mean, second round draft pick in the draft. I know they brought back J.K. Dobbins, but honestly, with J.K. Dobbins' contract, they can move off of him after 1 year. RJ Harvey needs to be that 3-down back for this team. He needs to grow into that role as the season goes on. I'm not expecting week 1 for RJ Harvey to be there, but as time goes on, you need RJ Harvey to be that 3-down back, at least grow into that role. J.K. Dobbins, we already know what J.K. Dobbins is at this point in time of his career. Yes, we're hoping he plays a full season. I get that. But the minute the Broncos signed J.K. Dobbins last year, a lot of us knew that he wasn't going to play all season. We had said last season during training camp, RJ Harvey needs to step up. He needs to be the guy. Unfortunately, it didn't happen for this team. This team got too much one-dimensional as the playoffs went on. You can't win a Super Bowl that way. I'm sorry. You can't. If you can't run the dang football, you're not going to be able to win a Super Bowl. That's just what it is. Look what Seattle did. Sam Darnold didn't go out there and win Seattle Seahawks a Super Bowl. Kenneth Walker did. That run game did. That offensive line did. That defense did. You got to have multiple ways to win football games. If your quarterback ain't right, if Bo Nix isn't having an off game, you need to be able to turn to your run game and do something with it. This team, that was a problem all year. And it's been a problem since Sean Payton's been in Denver. So we'll see if that changes with Davis Webb. But with RJ Harvey, yes, this has got to be the season where he turns it up and he's a different football player. He comes back a better player. This is where the offseason development from RJ Harvey himself works with his coaches, his running back coaches. That's where this all comes into play. He's got to come back a better player. And I think the Broncos, a lot of the reason why they didn't overpay for running back this offseason, Keith and Posse members, is because their belief in RJ Harvey as a 3-down back. So I think that this is one of those perfect players that put on this list as a player that's definitely under pressure post-free agency.
You're right, man. You're right. So much so that I think Phil McLaughlin was like figuring out how to get 50 stars to us, and then was keyboard warrior typing along as you were talking, just starting to talk about RJ Harvey. He came in and says, the guy I want to see improve and is under pressure as far as I'm concerned is Harvey. So you got not only agreement, but like 50 stars worth of agreement. Thank you so much, Phil. And I think there is pressure for RJ Harvey. How can there not be pressure for RJ Harvey? Like Graham says, I'm concerned about who's behind him because you can't rely on J.K. Dobbins for 17 games, which has been proven to be true. Prove me wrong. Show me the season that you see him in 17 games. It hasn't happened yet. So you're absolutely right, Graham. I all the more reason, Graham, that I think there is pressure. There's so much pressure for RJ Harvey. Right now, you have 1 second-round pick, 1 fourth-round pick. We'll see what happens when players get cut and, after the draft happens and stuff like that. There's always other guys out there. But the pressure is going to be on the guys in the room already, in my opinion. And the most pressure has to be on RJ Harvey, the guy who's been selected as your guy for the future. Great call out, man. I love RJ Harvey. Can he be that 3-down back? That's the big question. We know that he's can be that guy that can be that first down, that second down back? Can he be that third down back that can pick up blocks in the backfield and keep Bo Nix clean? That's the question. Not the third down out of the backfield. The third down, pick up that guy that's coming up the chute and keep Bo Nix clean, so we can get it to Waddle.
Well, and he needs to be patient as well when it comes to his vision. His vision was a problem this past season, I thought, as well. I don't think he was patient enough in between tackles, in between the guards, letting his offensive line do their part. I think he was quick to try to adjust, and so I think that needs to be something that he reworks on this offseason too, is his vision. But I was going to say this too, Keith. I think with RJ Harvey, they didn't draft him to become a rotational running back. You can get that in the 7th round. You can get that undrafted free agent. You can get that in cheap signing in free agency. You drafted this guy to be a three down back. So clearly that's the vision for this team. I think, and this is what I was going to go with as well. If I'm RJ Harvey this offseason and I'm you're on the internet as a player. I know players try to stay off the internet as much as possible. I get all that. I would too, 100%. But if I'm RJ Harvey, I'm hearing about Travis Etienne. I'm hearing about possibly Kenneth Walker to the Broncos. I'm taking that to heart. I'm like, holy crap.
Good call.
I'm a second-round draft pick, and that is my job that is possibly getting taken away from me. I'm in the training room right away with my running backs coach. I'm working on daily, every single day, how I can improve myself as a player, not only for myself, for my teammates, for where we want to go into winning a Super Bowl. That's what RJ Harvey should have been doing this offseason, taking it to heart that there's rumors out there of possibly a player taking your job. That should be in his mindset this year, and that should be the motivation that he uses going forward to make himself a better football player.
Good call out as far as, hey, here's a guy that just got drafted last year, and the rumor is basically he's not good enough already, and we should bring in a Travis Etienne to take his place. A lot of motivation there. We talk about bulletin board material. RJ Harvey might have a little bulletin board material. He might be keeping receipts a little bit too. Everybody out there that's kind of doubting him. Martin, I see you out there on YouTube. I agree. There's no pressure on Harvey to stay on this team. That's not the subject of this case. If anything, it's the pressure that these guys are going to just be under to perform. Because let's face it, Broncos country has expectations of this team being a Super Bowl team. So the expectation is that you got to go out there and you got to put up Super Bowl type of performance, especially in a run-it-back mentality. We went over Jalen Waddle. That's the one outside addition. He's going to have his own pressure, but there's going to be pressure for these other players, especially since, again, we're kind of running it back. I don't expect a whole lot of draft picks to come in here and really shake it up in year one for this team. I could be wrong. Hopefully they just shock the crap out of me, man. But I'm gonna shock. Maybe I'll shock somebody here, man, because I think my third. Am I already on my third? I think I am. My goodness gracious. You have Courtland Sutton. You have Jalen Waddle, but I think this is the guy that absolutely will have pressure to be that number 3 guy and continue to be that connection for Bo Nix and be that number 3 wide receiver on the field when we ask. I don't have a lot of faith in our tight end position right now. And I think that Marvin Mims and Jalen Waddle are kind of duplicates when you start drawing up plays. I need Troy Franklin to continue to grow and perform. If this team is going to be in the Super Bowl, this guy needs to be that reliable guy when you get to number 3, that your third guy in the tree. I know I already talked about Jalen Waddle and his stress, and I even saw Kenny saying, I think a little bit earlier, that he thought Courtland Sutton was going to be under some pressure. But for me, it's Troy Franklin. I think Troy Franklin is under a lot of pressure. And think about it, even like this wide receiver room now. You inject a Jalen Waddle in there, it's starting to become no joke, man. You better start stepping up your game to be that number 3. Marvin Mims has pressure. Troy Franklin has pressure. I guess little Jordan Humphrey and Michael Bandy might have pressure too, but I think no more pressure than what's on Troy Franklin right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think every single not necessarily every single wide receiver. Well, I think no. I'll go back and say I think Cortland Sutton falls in that category as well because this Jalen Waddle trade, like we just mentioned, Jalen Waddle's contract goes up. That's going to play into Cortland Sutton as well going forward. He's got to still be able to show up. The drops can't happen as much. I think this Jalen Waddle trade will help Cortland Sutton with all that and be able to take some pressure off him. That's the whole thing. We'll see how that transpires throughout this next season. But I agree with you, Keith. And then Troy Franklin's on that list. I think Marvin Mims is on that list. Pat Bryant is a little bit on that list. Not as much, but he's definitely on that list a little bit, I think, as well. All these wide receivers, like, it's great to have competition, and it's great to hear that these guys really are in line and they are really about the team. But it's at the end of the day, competition is what brings out the best. And I think with Troy Franklin, I've been a Troy Franklin component since they drafted him. I wanted them to draft him. I think he fits well with Bo Nix. Yes, the drops are an issue. I'm sorry, they were an issue with him in college too. Go back and watch the tape. I get it. But again, rookie contract, fourth round pick, and they traded up to get this guy. Troy Franklin, for me, it's going to be interesting to see. I think he's one of these wide receivers that I think has the most value because, and if you're going to talk about trading him, because 2 years of team control left in him with this rookie contract, but also what he did, that big leap that he took from year 1 to year 2 is something to watch. And I think teams value that. And so if the Broncos want to get, talk about getting more top 100 picks, I wonder if they make Troy Franklin available and one of those 4th round picks they have in this year's draft class, because they have 2 4th round picks, keep in mind, can they use that to move up in the 2nd round to go get a running back, to go get maybe a safety or a value, more of a need for this team. So that's something that's on the table for this team, I think. We'll see. I think they love Troy Franklin. But again, you love a player until you start getting offers, and then you kind of got to see. So this is a crowded wide receiver room now. I think they can use Troy Franklin. I do think he's under pressure, but I would say there's plenty of other wide receivers, Marvin Mims included, that have pressure on them as well.
And Dom's coming in on YouTube thinking that Pat Bryant could just beat out Troy for more snaps on this team. Of course, that's all based on health, like he said, as Pat Bryant had a little bit of a concussion issue and then leg injury late in the season, if I remember right, as well. So, yeah, we'll have to have a healthy room, but I think you're right, man. I think there's pressure all the way across the board, from top to bottom. I don't know. I mean, Cortland Sutton, as Kenny kind of alluded to earlier, if all of a sudden Jalen Waddles does kind of emerge as that number 1, I think that there's some pressure on Sutton to kind of step it up and kind of compete. You just can't give up that role, and I think that everybody underneath those 2 guys, when it comes to Pat Bryant, Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, and I think there's so much competition. There's a lot of pressure, man. There's a lot of pressure to bring these guys back to the Super Bowl, man. Got one more from you. Top number 1 pressure guy for Mr. Trevor Salzman, man. I wish I had the drum roll ready for you, but I don't, man. I'll just pop it up on the screen, man.
Yeah, no surprise. It's Mr. Evan Ingram. That is the number 1 player on my pressure list. Again, post free agency, this could change as we get closer to the season, but Evan Ingram, I think, is definitely on this list. And I'm going to say this too. There's several reasons why. I mean, last year was just not at all what I think the Broncos had planned for Evan Ingram. Clearly, Evan Ingram wasn't happy about it. He wasn't happy how he was utilized in this offense. I think he figured he'd be utilized a little bit more. Honestly, a little surprised Evan Ingram's still on this roster, to be honest with you. I thought that they may possibly move off of him this offseason. I don't think that's the case now. Post free agency, I mean, again, there's plenty of players on the free agent market, but I don't think that they're bringing in like a David Njoku now with Evan Ingram still on this roster. I think if they bring in somebody in the tight end room, it's going to be a rookie. But he's owed $14 million this coming up season, and that counts for about 14.7% of the Broncos' salary cap going into next season. Evan Ingram also had tied for the most drops on this season. This past season, he had 8, and that is a 10.5% drop pass rate. Had 460 yards and 1 touchdown. I mean, clearly, and he wasn't utilized at all. The cap number on him is pretty high for what he hasn't been able to produce for this team. $14 million against the salary cap going into next year is a lot of money that you're paying this guy that just hasn't been utilized, but it also hasn't performed, I think, to expectations. I mean, you leave this, tied for first on this team with drops, but you're not utilized enough, there's an issue. I mean, I think there's an issue with him being utilized, but I think there's also an issue. It's an Evan Ingram issue where like you need to be able to produce as well. So I think you could argue both sides, but Evan Ingram, there's a ton of pressure on him, of course, and it'll be interesting to see if the Broncos bring in more competition in this tight end room. But you have not gotten anywhere close to the investment that you end up putting into Evan Ingram, anywhere close to like production wise from this guy. So I think he's number one on my list for sure. Need to see a better version of him next year. I think with Davis Webb being the play caller, mostly the play caller going in next year. I think he's going to try to utilize Evan Ingram a little bit more than what Sean Payton was able to. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I mean, I think Evan Ingram for sure should be on this list.
Rodney agrees, but he also thinks that Webb will find a way to get Ingram more involved. I wish I would scroll all the way to the very top, but I would have a hard time finding it. So I'm just gonna go back to a comment I saw earlier, and I think we even talked about it on screen here about somebody wanting David Njoku. I think Evan Ingram needs some pressure. I think Evan Ingram is in the final year of a contract as an aging tight end, and I don't want him guaranteed the spot. I don't want him walking in feeling like he just gets it and he should be more integrated into the offense just because. I would love to see, now that I think about it, a David Njoku coming in, because I don't think that there's enough pressure. Now, enough pressure for him to be that piece that we expect him to be, yes, but I would like Evan Ingram to have a little bit more pressure to go out there and really compete for that spot. And maybe that comes through the draft. But I think if you're talking about, and I think ultimately we are, about the opportunity to take home a Super Bowl, Evan Ingram has a lot of pressure on him to be that piece, to be that tight end that we all expected him to be. Absolutely. I just hope he has enough pressure on himself internally to go out there and churn out that performance if we don't add something to this roster too. Fair?
Yeah, absolutely. And paying him $14 million is definitely a lot of reasons to expect more from this guy. If he was making $5 million or whatever, you wouldn't expect as much, but paying him $14 million this next season, I mean, you definitely want more out of this player and for what you acquired him for. And so again, I do think they'll bring in more competition, but from what they paid Adam Troutman, I mean, that's going to get pretty expensive in that tight end room. The Njoku is going to, I don't think it's going to cost an arm and a leg to get him, but I think it's going to cost a decent amount to get him. I think that this tight end room needs a rookie tight end, not Caleb Boner in the 7th round either. They need a little bit more, and I think there's talented wide receivers in this class, not necessarily be, Kenyon Sadiq, top of the draft. Of course, they're not going to get him now, but there's other tight ends that I like in this draft class. I think the Broncos finally need to draft and develop their own tight end. Sean Payton's done it in New Orleans with Jimmy Graham. It needs to happen. I've been saying that for a couple seasons now. So hopefully this is the draft that it gets done. But it'll be interesting to see what direction they end up going.
Yeah, it will be. It will be. And I hope for the very best out of Evan Ingram, man. I think a lot of people were excited about him last year. Now, maybe even with Jalen Waddle coming in this year, he has a little bit of pressure as far as being that focus piece, because he doesn't get to be the little Instagram star, the Twitter star with posting about jokers and running around the city. It's Jalen Waddle's town at the moment, as we're all pretty much excited and talking about that for the most part. I get to throw two different things up, man. We went through our top three in our minds under pressure, but I teased everybody at the top about one more that I had. Came from Kenny Kirkpatrick, and I get to do two things. I get to put Kenny's pick up here for player under pressure as we head into the Super Bowl run in 2026, 2027, and I get to put up Phil McLaughlin's comment because it goes right in line, and he dropped 50 stars with it. So without further ado, let's talk about Bo Nix, and let's talk about Phil McLaughlin's 50 50-star comment. He says, in my opinion, our franchise quarterback also has to step up and find Waddle and Sutton deep over the middle. Pressure to get it done, whether it be Sutton or Waddle, like Phil McLaughlin is saying here, or like Kenny Kirkpatrick came in and he dropped me a couple notes. Hey, upgraded wide receiver room. Guy coming back off of an injury last year. Guy that everyone says if he would have been in that seat rather than Jarrett Stidham when we rode off into the AFC Championship, we would have been talking about a different Super Bowl. A lot of pressure on Bo Nix when it comes to Phil, when it comes to our fellow horseman Kenny Kirkpatrick especially. And by the way, Phil, again, thanks for the 50 stars there. A lot of pressure on Bo Nix. Do you agree here, Trevor? I would say I would have to agree just as a quick comment, but I'll let you elaborate.
I mean, I think there's always pressure when it's your starting quarterback, it's your franchise quarterback, and the kind of season that this Broncos team, came off of in their Super Bowl aspirations going forward. I mean, this is the start of your Super Bowl window, I think, really truly opening, if we're being for real. And so, I mean, I think there's pressure on Bo Nix for sure. I cut him some slack because really, he is this Broncos offense when he's on the field. I mean, they don't win as many games they won last year without him. He's had an inefficient running game, and a head coach that at times has not put him in the best situations to be successful, whether that's getting the play call in super late, or whether that's, all these different rotations with his wide receivers he can never get, just consistency with his wide receiver room throughout the game. And that's hard to do with your quarterback and get everybody on the right page. And being able to make the line adjustments that you need to do. So I think Bo Nix does a ton. I think he's been asked to do a ton since his rookie season. And I think he's handled it really well. And so, yes, there's pressure on Bo Nix, but I think some of these other guys, and I've even seen comments of Davis Webb in there as well. And I'd like to get into that a little bit too. But with Bo Nix, I mean, there's always pressure with him, but I'm cutting him some slack. Without Bo Nix, this team is not where they are. And clearly, you've seen that in the AFC Championship game. You've seen the difference between Jarrett Stidham and Bo Nix. And so, I cut Bo Nix some slack because of what he's been able to produce since being drafted by the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that in just a second. I promise I'll get back to that. I'll hit Dom really quick. He says, Njoku would be nice, but will he come here to play in a part-time role? And that's a great call out. Yeah. I think it would have to be a competition for that number one, and let Evan Ingram know he's on notice, I guess, a little bit at that point. TW coming in on YouTube saying Bo is missing easy passes early in the season. Last season, I believe he's talking about as well. Need to get off to a faster start than maybe what we saw last year. Some pressure there. And one of the things I was going to just also bring up, you kind of brought it up, and it's maybe a great segue. I'll take just a couple seconds on this. Bo Nix is going to have to kind of learn yet again a little bit of a tweaked offense. It sounds like, if you look at the difference between a Mike Leach Texas Tech style of offense that Davis Webb was under versus a West Coast style of offense that Sean Payton kind of runs, and the way and the language in a play call, you go from like 4 sentences down to like 3 words. It's a big difference. So just even thinking about that, a little bit of pressure for Bo Nix. And certainly if we're talking about, hey, we expect to be in the Super Bowl next year, yes, there's going to be pressure on Bo Nix or your starting quarterback, whatever team it is. So agreed, Kenny. But, not a whole lot more than I think that is on any other starting quarterback when those expectations are out there. And I think that's really where we're at on that. You want to get to Davis Webb, though, man, because like you said, we've seen, and Jody's talking about it here, fellow horseman, how much pressure is on Davis Webb. You said you wanted to get to that before we got out of here. We'll go a couple minutes over, and then we'll wrap this up and say goodbye. But Davis Webb, yeah, I think there is some pressure. Your thoughts, though, man?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's pressure on Davis Webb, not only because Sean Payton, I think this too. I don't think Sean Payton just like, here, Davis Webb, you can be my play caller now. I think there was definitely some talks in there of like, do I want to do that? Am I ready to do that yet? Like, I don't think Sean Payton was willingly, just going to hand the play calls over to Davis Webb. So I think he knows how smart Davis Webb is. He's talked about it multiple times, but there's also some added pressure with that, because if you got to know, if you're Davis Webb, your head coach is an offensive mind. If things don't go off, don't get off to the right start, or your offense starts struggling, and I do think Sean Payton will be part of the game plan. Really, it's Davis Webb calling plays, and him and Sean just kind of mixing together. But if this team gets off to a struggling start, and especially on the offense side of the ball, you can't tell me that Sean Payton isn't going to say, maybe I should take over play calling again. Like, just because of how Sean Payton, I don't think it was easy for him to give up play calling, and it's never easy if you're an offensive-minded head coach to give up play calling. Vice versa on the defense side of the ball. So that being said, that alone has Davis Webb on notice. Like, you've got to get this offense right, tweak it however we want to tweak it. And I think we can be definitely more crisp, getting the play calls in, everything like that, making you and Bo's relationship obviously something special. So that's all great and all. I need results. I need this offense to be on point. I need this offense to be better. You got a bright, shiny new toy to play with Jalen Waddle now. You got to be excited about that. And so that's a part of it. Plus, Davis Webb, if all things go really well, let's be honest, he's probably not here after next season. If this is a top 5 offense, top 10 offense, Davis Webb's probably not in Denver. He's probably a head coach elsewhere. There's a lot of pressure, I think, on him himself to prove what he can do to opposing teams, that the teams that may be looking at him as far as a head coach and what he's able to do. So there's two different standpoints of this. It's the Sean Payton factor. He's your offensive-minded head coach. Plus, what you have to, if you're Davis Webb yourself, you have to be able to show opposing teams what you can do to try to lobby for a head coaching job next year, which, again, Davis Webb definitely wants, of course.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, I mean, it's the ultimate goal, right? If you're in that coaching, you want to get to that great position of being that head coach, and he takes the next step. Now he's out there, he's going to be calling plays. Forrest Smith's coming in over on YouTube, says, I think Webb and Nix will be okay communicating. They both have lots of time in the system, and you think about that, and that's got me thinking. Thanks, Forrest Smith, for coming in here and posting a comment over on YouTube. For me, yeah, you think about the relationship that these guys have had since Bo Nix has came in. I always liked the fact that Bo Nix and Davis Webb were always seen on the sidelines chatting it up and talking with each other. You saw that a ton. Something you might see a little bit more with Sean Payton now if he doesn't have to do all the play calling, correct? But that being said, it does make me feel very good about this relationship in between Davis Webb and Bo Nix and being able to take that next step. And like you said, Bo Nix, very intelligent quarterback, knows how to process all these systems, came in as a rookie, did it very well, has been nothing but praised for his ability to really come in and understand and adapt and learn a very difficult offense. So yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting transition. It's going to be pressure on Davis Webb. I think there is going to be pressure, though, too, of, like you said, Sean Payton, I don't think just says, like, hey, man, just give my play calling to Davis Webb. How short is that leash? How much does Sean Payton want to start mingling into the play calling? Is it within the first game? Is it within the first 4 games? You know what I mean? Is it from game 1 and, within the first 5 minutes, you see Sean Payton kind of getting involved? I don't know. Sean Payton has left that door kind of open. So I think there is some pressure in that regard for him to go out there and perform and maybe get off to that faster start than we've seen in years past, man. Peter Johnson. Yeah, the entire franchise is under pressure, and it's hard to schedule this season. The harder schedule this season, the label of if not for an injury, we should have been in the Super Bowl. The added receiver for Bo Nix, it's a prove-it season. Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. And Phil came in, and Phil's been such a great supporter. I'm got to answer one more question before we get out of here from Phil because he's been dropping stars all night. I'll take this for first, man.
Yeah.
Do you think that Davis Webb was calling plays in the playoffs with Stidham? Do you think if he was calling plays with Stidham in the playoffs, it could have made the difference? Davis Webb, Jarrett Stidham. I think overall, I think if he was in charge of every single play call, including special teams, maybe, because I think we should have maybe kicked a field goal, and I don't know if honestly if Davis Webb would have had the guts, I'll say the guts to go out there and not take the 3 points when it's staring you in the face. And I think that 3 points could have been a big difference maker with the way the weather turned and the whole 9 yards. So based on that alone, Phil, I think that it could have made a difference in that last game with Jarrett Stidham. What say you, Trevor?
I don't think so, because it's hard to say right now how this team if this team would have been able to run the football better. I think really that's a big difference, is just this team's inability to have a running game really hurt this team badly. I mean, it's bad. Yeah, you have to be able to run the football, especially when you're one of the last 4 teams to play NFC Championship game, AFC Championship game, and then obviously the Super Bowl. I don't know that that's hard to say if that would change the outcome of it. I think we'll find out the answer this season once we see Davis Webb and what everything he's going to be able to do with this offense. And because again, Sean Payton, you can say, well, Davis Webb's going to call plays. Sean Payton's going to have his hands in on that. When it comes to plays and everything to design up, he's still going to be designing plays alongside Davis Webb. I think it's going to be a kind of a duo kind of thing with Davis Webb focusing on calling plays, which again, I will give Sean Payton this, and I want to give him credit. Being a CEO, taking a step back, being able to focus on the team at large part in general is a huge step for Sean Payton. I think it's what it's going to take, I think, for this team to ultimately win a Super Bowl. I think that's what Sean Payton's mindset is as well. I'm going to do whatever it takes, even if it means me taking a step back, calling plays, and believing in a guy that I really believe in, and a guy I want to stay here in Denver. A bright offensive mind like Davis Webb. If that takes me taking a step back and him calling plays on the offensive side of the ball, and I can just be the CEO of this team, I will do that if that's what it takes for this team to be a Super Bowl caliber team and ultimately win the Super Bowl, because of course that's what Sean Payton's going to want, and this Broncos organization is going to want. Ultimate goal, win a Super Bowl. I think Sean Payton's doing the right thing by giving Davis Webb a chance.
I like it, man. I agree with you 100%. Also, our ultimate goal is to get everyone to do a thumbs up, a like, a share, anything, man. We appreciate it a ton. But no, you're absolutely right, man. I think Davis Webb, Sean Payton, honestly, I think that I think it's going to work out a lot better, and I don't have near the worries about it, man. I think it's going to be I don't know. I don't know why it is, man. I think it's going to work out very well for the Denver Broncos. I think this is going to be a positive all the way around. And as much as I love Sean Payton, and I think that he's, fantastic mind, at some point you do need to pass that torch. And I don't think there's a better, better coach to pass it to than Davis Webb. I think he's going to have a fantastic future in this league, and I think we're lucky to have him on this roster in the meantime. Trevor, I've been lucky enough to be sitting here for over an hour podcasting with you about the Denver Broncos, the players under pressure, the coaches under pressure, and it's been a fantastic night of comments, by the way, too. Couldn't get them all up on the screen, man. They've been pacing. I've been trying to throw them up on the screen, even if we can't talk about them. But what a fantastic night podcast and talking about the Denver Broncos. But we do got to wrap it up. I want to get some final thoughts from you, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I get my final thoughts, Jody, I will say this. I disagree with what Sean Payton won't call plays. I don't think he's going to call plays, but he's going to definitely be a part of designing plays. I mean, that's not Sean Payton's biggest issue, is designing plays. It's sticking to his play call sheet also, everything, trying to manage everything else, the clock, trying to get the play calling on time. Just things that you got to be crisper with. And that's something I've been calling Sean Payton out since he got to Denver. The stuff it's insane that your quarterback has to yell to the sidelines, get the dang play call in. you don't have enough time to let the line to make line adjustments. And so that's the biggest thing, is taking pressure off Sean so he can be that CEO head coach. But don't make no mistake about it, is he going to completely give away everything off from the offensive standpoint to Davis Webb? He's definitely going to be in that room game planning and really coming up with plays to best help this offense going forward. And then he'll pass that torch on to Davis Webb when it comes to game day. And they'll be that duo together, trying to come up with a game plan to really help this Broncos offense going forward. But I don't think it was easy for Sean Payton to just give up play calling, like as we alluded to it earlier. But no, my final thoughts, Keith, I think, and for all the Posse members out there, is again, really want to thank everybody out there tonight for joining the show live and watching the show after the fact. Please like, share, subscribe. We have the mock draft show, I think 4.0 tomorrow night with Kenny Kirkpatrick and I. And then we're turning around, I think Monday, maybe a mailbag episode. We haven't really discussed that yet. Tuesday for sure, we'll be back for the Juice, 8 p.m. Mountain Time. Also, our draft show tomorrow night is 8 p.m. Mountain Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. That's also goes for the Juice. Wednesday, we'll be back for Denver Bronco Roundup, 8 p.m. We'll be one horseman short, but I'll let him alliterate that and talk about that a little bit if he shall wish. But please join us. Please like, share, and subscribe. We really appreciate it. And all this hard work is for all of our fans out there, all our Posse members, all our juicers, all our mock draft fans. Just know this is all for you guys. Hope everybody has a great rest of your weekend. And as always, go Broncos.
What a way to kick off a weekend. Hanging out with Trevor, hanging out with all you, talking Denver Broncos football, man. It has been fantastic. Trevor alluded to it, man. I'm taking a little bit of a break, man. I'm getting out of town. I might even be off the grid for a while, so I don't even know if I'll be commenting in the back chat at all. But going to be out for possibly up to 2 weeks, and then once I come back, I'll be raring to go. But I got, great horsemen holding down the fort. You got Trevor, you got Kenny, you got Jody. He talked about it. Denver Bronco Roundup. We typically go live every Wednesday and Saturday, 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, like you're hanging out with us right now. The Juice, 8 p.m. on Tuesday. The Pick is in. Mock draft show on Sunday. And then we've been adding all these additional ones, like a mailbag episode that might be coming up on Monday. Please like, share, and subscribe, man. We really appreciate it. We appreciate a fun evening talking Denver Broncos football with you. Good evening to Adam and Kayla as they're in, and we're about ready to come out. Love you all as well, man. But do got to get out of here, man. Gonna miss you all for a couple of weeks. But like I said, man, you're in good hands. Can't wait to come back and catch up with you all. Hope maybe there'll be big things to talk about that I missed. That'll be fantastic. There'll always be big things in my heart for all of you, as I'm going to be thinking about you while I'm gone. But we're going to get out of here the way we always do. Boots in the stirrups, guns in the holsters, and of course, Denver Broncos in your heart. Until next episode, we're out of here. Have a great weekend, everybody.